Paltrocast.
Sam, how are you doing aside from talking to this guy in New York today?
Well, any fan of Wu-Tang is a friend of mine. Darren, loved the shirt and love to be back in action with you. I know we've gotten to do some fun things together in the past, so excited to talk all things cocktails and music today with you.
Likewise, before we talk about the growth and continued success of all your brands and all that, I name checked you in a recent interview that I did with Joe Latrulio. And of course, he
Wow.
said fantastic things about you. Are the state people the only ties that you still have to comedy in Hollywood, or are there
Oh,
other
I
people?
would I would say at Dogfish Head, we take our work on recipe creation very seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. So my old roommates from the state, like Joe Latruglia and Ken Marino, have been an inspiration. If you go to Dogfish Head's like YouTube channel, and you can look at like the video we just did for the Colderist, which was an homage to Edward Scissorhands. We recently did an homage to Zoolander. So we're continuing to have a lot of comedic fun while we're having creative fun on recipes here at Dogfish. What were you interviewing Joe Latruglia about?
He and Beth had a movie called Outpost, and then there was
Yep.
another thing. And I figure, how can I make this awkward after I talk about the new movie? Let's just talk about Dogfish Head brewing in their bathtub, and then that's how it all comes up. So,
Perfect.
every time I speak with you, it seems like Dogfish Head has grown another 150% and launched another 8 collaborations and 8 projects. So the canned cocktails keep coming, the artist collaborations keep coming, etc. What's the latest and the greatest? Is it the music initiatives?
Yeah, we definitely want to talk music. Another one is, we're one of the few breweries that have like a beer themed hotel. So we invite your followers to come and visit us here in the beauty of coastal Delaware. We have e-bikes, regular bikes to get through all of our different properties in the 3 towns. And this weekend we're hosting our weekend of compelling ales and spirits. And one of the newest collaborations is we're doing a beautiful vodka that's actually made with kelp harvested from the ocean and sea salt harvested from Maine in collaboration with our friends at Atlantic Sea Farm. So that's our latest and greatest collaboration. But another one we're really excited about on the horizon, just weeks away, is we're very proud to be the official brewery of Record Store Day. I know you and I are both big music geeks.
I didn't know that part.
Oh, you did?
RSD,
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
We've been the official brewery of Record Store Day for nearly a year, a decade, and we've gotten to do fun projects as part of that with bands like the Grateful Dead and Galaxy 500, Pigeons playing ping pong. So this year we're really excited that we're going to be announcing a collaboration with one of the OGs of proto punk, and we recorded a live album. It's with Lenny Kaye, who's in Patti Smith's band. You're
Yeah.
nodding your head. You're very familiar. So he did.
Very
He
familiar.
was also he also curated and released the album Nuggets that kind of launched 1,000 garage and punk bands. So we got to go down to North Carolina, and Dogfish took part in a day where members of REM and Alejandro Escovedo, all these amazing world-class musicians came in, and there's this live Nuggets album coming out, and that's only part of it for us. Record Store is our music month is the whole month of April. The centerpiece is RSD, but we got this really cool program that Megan conceived called Sipping and Flipping, where if you go to Dogfish social channels, you win the opportunity to win tickets to a concert of your choice. We're doing a really cool weekend retreat at our hotel here with XPN, the great indie radio station out of Philly, but they broadcast some of their shows nationally. So that tons of stuff going on for Record Store Day, including events up at Brooklyn Bowl up near neck of the woods as part of that as well.
So that means that Peter Shapiro, who manages the Dead, is also down with Dogfish Head. That's what I'm hearing.
Peter is a badass. Yeah, I mean, he got that final concert to happen, got the band back together. I believe he also owns the Capitol Theater along the Hudson, and he and I had a wonderful night. I got to sit in his box with him, and we watched a Phil Lesh from the Dead show together. So Peter, if you haven't read his autobiography, I highly recommend it. But he's a great luminary in the world of music.
Well, something that you and him have in common, if you don't mind taking a compliment, are you maxed out on compliments today?
I'm only halfway through the day. This will be the first one I get if it really is a compliment. So I'm curious there.
So both you and Peter Shapiro are people who have way too many businesses, but the quality doesn't dip when you do all these side projects and side ventures that deviate from the original business. Now, I would have to assume that's because you are able to delegate and you have good people working under you.
Well, I've gotten to meet a bunch of Peter's coworkers, and a bunch of my coworkers work to make that magic happen in the partnerships that we do with them. So I would say one thing that's very true in how we overlap is we have the humility to know what we're good at, and then the ability to entice other people with complementary superpowers to join us on our journeys to make our companies as strong and well-rounded with skill sets and superpowers that complement our own.
So when I go down the list of businesses, Dogfish Head started off as just being famous for craft beer, and then the canned cocktails, the spirits, the collaborations, the restaurants, the hotel, presenting events, record store day, etc. How do you manage to get all of that done? Are there a lot of behind the camera that's filming? Are there like whiteboards that have the next 3 years planned and written in erasable marker?
Well, literally, it's perfect that you asked that question now, because I hope you guys can see behind you. The reason we're able to get it done is it says together we are heavy, and that shows all the different departments at Dogfish Head, from brewing to planning to quality control to business analysis. So really, it's this whole team of passionate coworkers that come together and make the magic happen. And the other thing I think we're really proud of is, yes, we're, as you said, Darren, we're best known nationally, probably primarily for our beer. And we were sort of a second generation craft brewery. I'd put Sierra Nevada and Sam Adams as the first gen. We came around in the mid 90s when there was this, kind of a boom. But we truly are, Dogfish, a first generation craft distillery. So the term craft was not put in front of the word distillery until we submitted our TTB federal permit 22 years ago to open our tiny little distillery, where we started making, culinary ingredient infused gins and rums and vodkas. So while that's a smaller business, it's right now, on a percentage wise, our cocktail business is growing faster than beer. So we're extremely excited, and we've been making cocktails with our own spirits for 22 years, but only now have we finally kind of synchronized the whole family of brands, got
Within
packaging.
reach.
Yeah, packaging that really resonates and is easy to spot on the shelf. This new packaging, by the way, is just coming to market for all of our cocktail brands right now and in April. These are our new tourist brands, the 12 ABV canned cocktails, but the 7 ABV ones that have been out for a few years will be in this new, easier to find packaging with our big old shark and shield front and present. So we love all our business units equally, whether it's our tiniest, our hotel, where I'm doing a fireside chat with the Atlantic Sea Farms people tonight as we're launching this kelp and sea salt infused vodka, or our cocktail business, or our beer. We love them all equally. They're just like snowflakes. They're just of a different shape and size, but we love them all equally.
Behind you, it says "Together we are heavy." Is that a Polyphonic Spree reference?
Wow, that's a great obscure reference. Colorado hippy dippy band from like 20 years ago. I believe, which woman became famous that came out of Polyphonic Spree? There's a woman that was in Polyphonic Spree that became massive, and I forget what her name was. She wasn't leader of the band, but she was one of the voices. They had that amazing EP that was almost all a cappella, and they all came together and sang beautifully together. So I do have that EP somewhere in my vinyl shelves. And I can't remember the woman. She actually was a Record Store Day ambassador 1 year ago, New York City artist. I'll think of it while we're talking.
I remember as the singer of Tripping Daisy was the head of that band. I don't remember who else was in there, but hopefully that band comes back. That was a wonderful cult. But back to here. So
I agree.
Again, numerous projects, all doing well, of different levels of success and collaborations. When was it that you kind of realized that you didn't just have to be the beer guy?
Well, Dave, when I wrote my business plan, I wrote that Dogfish would be the first brewery focused on bringing culinary ingredients into beer. unexpected. Right out of the gates, we're doing chicory stout with coffee and chicory, raison d'etre with raisins and beet sugars. But I also wrote in there that we'll also celebrate the culinary arts in solid form, not liquid form. So from day one, we had a wood-fired, open, rustic oven and a kitchen. And so we were always a food and beer company from day one, always a music company. Like our stage has had original acts on it since the weekend we opened. So that was always kind of the initial holy trinity of beer, food, music. But then within 5-6 years, we opened one of the first craft distilleries in the country and started our journey for foolproof spirits and cocktails alongside beer and food at that moment. So we always intended that we were not just an exploration of goodness, of off-centered ales for off-centered people, but just literally off-centered goodness for off-centered people. And that's led us in all these wonderful tangential directions, in addition to the heart of our company, the biggest organ pumping out stuff, coast to coast, which is the beer part of the business.
So going back to music here, in this interview, our last interview, a lot of classic names have come up, like REM and Fish and Grateful Dead. I think you were talking about Archers of Loaf at one point in time. I think you were talking about the Replacements. So there's that punk element to what you do, but also the jam element. Did you start off as a hard rock kind of guy? Did you start off as a Kiss Van Halen guy before you got mellow?
Well, you're a little younger than I am, but I did not come up in the streaming era. I was born in 1969 in Queens, New York, but my parents moved to a rural town in Massachusetts. And I love that you met the Replacements is probably my favorite band of all time, and they have a song called "Left of the Dial." And so when I was coming up, I didn't have streaming, and so I would just lay in my bedroom every night and just play with that FM dial. And because I grew up in Western Massachusetts, I was within a 20-mile radius of Smith College, UMass, Amherst, Northfield Mount Herman High School, Deerfield High School, and all of them had these tiny little radio stations. Hampshire College, the hippies, shouts to the hippies at Hampshire College. So I got to go around the dial and find punk shows, hip hop shows, from these kids that were only 4, 5, 7 years older than me in college. And it really inspired my journey. I became a DJ at the high school I met my wife Mariah at, and I was a DJ at my college as well. So I come from that honestly, but I was so lucky to grow up in a part of the world that pre-streaming, you could find, any genre you could even imagine on these tiny little radio stations. And that made me a music fan for life.
So were you going to punk rock shows at the Rat in Boston?
Wow, the Rat. I was not, my folks wouldn't let me go that far. I was allowed to go to like Northampton and Amherst. So that was the era of Pixies coming up. Eventually, Sonic Youth came out to that market. Dinosaur Jr. would be another one that came
If I could really interrupt, NRBQ, were they in?
Wow, underrated. The NRBQ live at Yankee Stadium, a great lost chestnut, where literally they never got to play Yankee Stadium. The album covers just them sitting in the bleachers at Yankee Stadium, but they were alive in Yankee Stadium. What a great sense of humor for a band.
That EP that they did with Captain Lou Albano is also ahead of its time. So kudos.
That's right. The wrestling star.
Have any members of NRBQ played at any of the Dogfish related venues?
You're going to make me have to go to the Wayback Machine because I'm 54, but I distinctly remember Al and I think most of the band, if not the whole band, being on our stage. I remember the Flesh Tones playing guitar, standing on my bar. I remember the Strokes blowing out our speakers and then refusing to play without sound because the amplification was so important to them. I remember Nathan and the Zydeco Cha-Chas. I remember Nathan so drunk trying to count the money I paid him while he was still wearing his accordion and kept getting mad at himself for miscounting the money, even though we paid him the right amount. So we have tons of amazing memories. My hip hop band opening for Tone Loc. It was the absolute peak of our career and absolute bottom of his, I think, when we got to open for Tone Loc once. So yeah, tons and tons of music memories So as I go through my own vinyl stack with a beer or a cocktail, I am sipping and flipping, and on every row I find a band that played live at Dogfish, and that to me is a component of us feeling like we're on a successful path. If I've gotten to intersect with so many of our heroes. We got the Philly band Clap Your Hands and Say Yeah playing at our Analog A Go-Go Festival here in June. That's probably the next national show that I'm super excited about. So yeah, we're going to keep putting the mental and experimental and the where in Delaware.
Well, the where Delaware, that's one of the two questions that I want to ask you before I let you go. And the first one is, it sounds like with all of the memories and the fantastic things you've done, that there should be a coffee table book eventually about Dogfish and the past, present, and future. Is that something that's ever been discussed?
Oh, Darren, you're clairvoyant, but we released a book. It was supposed to release our 25th anniversary, but then COVID happened. So if your audience goes to a local indie bookstore or Amazon and just types in the Dogfish book, it's a 26-year, basically coffee table style book, beautifully designed. I actually, the inspiration design wise for it was the Beastie Boys book. I don't know if you ever got to read that, but amazing book where it's their voices, the three Beastie Boys, but also that you've got Biz Marquis in there for a chapter. The Sleater Kinney women are in there for a chapter. Everyone, all the collaborators that they intersected with have a voice in their book too. Similarly, in the Dogfish book, it's folks that we've collaborated with, co-workers that have been on our journey for a long time. So it's worth checking out. Put on your favorite album, open up one of these beautiful 12 ABV new can cocktails from us, and sit and flip through the book.
Well, the last thing I want to ask you, again, you just alluded to, when I was a kid, we knew that Delaware was on the map, but the movie Wayne's World kind of set Delaware behind in time with, I'm in Delaware, and that's all. Yeah. Eventually learn, okay, Biden's from there. Okay, Aubrey Plaza's from there. And over time, more notable people have come about that. When did you kind of realize that Delaware was your long-term home?
Well, I was lucky enough I'm lucky enough to still be married to my high school sweetheart, and she's from Milford, Delaware. Mariah Calagione, my co-founder of Dogfish, and really, neither of us intended to move back to her hometown, but I started waiting tables and bartending when we were at college here, and really fell in love with coastal Delaware. And then we opened as the first brewery to open in Delaware since Prohibition. We opened tiny, but we opened in 95, but around 90, 99 or 2000, we had Food and Wine do stories on us, the Today Show, and pretty soon we were starting to get real, big national media. We did a TV show on Discovery that was mostly shot here in Delaware, and it was really cool, because we'd have the not just the mayors, but eventually the governor became buddies of ours, and he's a big rock and roll guy, our old governor. So going to concerts with a governor in our home state, and seeing Paul McCartney or Bob Dylan together at Firefly while drinking beers that we made in Delaware. Standing next to the governor, that'd probably be a moment where I was like, wow, we're really, really, proud of our journey and how Dogfish in a large degree is synonymous with Delaware. And so we're just 2 hours from DC, Baltimore, Philly, 3.5 from Manhattan. So we urge your audience to come and visit it, because the beauty of coastal Delaware is spectacular, but it's nowhere near as built up as, say, Cape Cod or the Hamptons or Outer Banks. So it's a beautiful place to run a business with a bunch of passionate people that we get to work with, and it's a beautiful place for beer and cocktail and lovers to visit as well.
Paltrocast.